What is up, everybody? I don't even know what camera. We got so many cameras set up right here. The UP is officially live. I'm calling it a pilot, but Alex is insisting that this is our first episode. But today we have one of my best friends, my best, we'll call it employee. I hate that term though. I like the term partner more than anything.
Right.
Would you say you feel like a partner?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely have a lot of responsibilities and like ins into like the behind the scenes that most like employees have probably never gotten, especially in other business plans. Like you wouldn't have like your intern in on like real estate meetings with landlords and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And then behind the master of the keys, as always, we got Alex.
What's up? What's up?
I love that shot. But anyway, this is a UP show. This is the first. We'll call it the first episode. We'll say Alex is right, but I've wanted to do this for so long, and what's held me back. And I was just talking to Alex upstairs before we got going. I never really felt like we had the right setup, and it's such a saturated market now. So you got to go all in. So we got all the cameras, we got all the angles, we got the brand new mics, the nice new boom arms, and I feel really, really good about it. Definitely something I've talked about. I've talked about it for freaking ever.
Yep, a few different experiments, but this one definitely has had the most time invested into it with equipment and setup, and having Alex behind the keys, taking care of production will make
Alex
a big difference.
Is a big asset. One more thing, we need something on the wall, but then I think we're good to go. So, all right, Colton, let's get into your story. I know we did a podcast a long time ago, the AM podcast.
Yeah, we did.
How'd you meet me? Let's go over that really quick.
So I met
through,
Steve.
Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony Angelis, and I think there was one other kid. I can't remember his name. Yeah, so
Vic Monson?
I came with Vic and Anthony one day to TNT because they were training there, and I think I had seen some like stuff on social media. I'm like, okay, it's kind of looking like not just like a gym where you go work out, but there's like a sports performance aspect to it. And I remember
you were somewhere else, right? Like you were doing something at Spring Grove.
So yeah, that was in high school, I trained at Elite 7 with Alex Kuba. Talk about it all the time. Most people who know me know about my relationship with Alex and that gym and the culture that I still try to keep alive to this day. But yeah, ever since Alex passed away, I didn't want to go train anywhere else. I actually never saw any other real like sports performance gyms in the area besides for like Davis Speed Center. But I don't know why I just never had any interest in going to try that place out. Maybe that's wrong of me. Maybe it wasn't, but
they do decent training, from what I hear.
Yeah, and I knew a bunch of kids that would go train there too, and maybe that's part of the reason why I didn't want to go there, because those kids went there. But yeah, and actually, so I went with Vic and Anthony. I was actually talking to my girlfriend, Lisandra, and we're still together now, like 6 years later. And she would tell me, like, just go, check it out, and, like, see how it is. Because I did not want to come in that first day. I was like, I don't know.
I could tell.
Like, it's not going to be the same.
You were like an emo kid the first day I met you.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't use the word emo, but they say, like, I look like a douche or like an asshole. It's because I'm not, like, too open and like talkative with people like off the bat.
You have a really, and I tell this to like a lot of people and even some of our clients too. I'm like, Colton's just got a big shell, man. Like he's got a big shell, but once he gets to know you, like he's an awesome guy. He's really nice. You got a huge heart. Like we all know that. But yeah, that first day we met, I'm just like, what's wrong with this? Like, does he not like me? Like, it was really hard to read you.
Yeah, it was tough to be in like a different like environment like that and like training somewhere for the first time, really.
Because you're speaking about your relationship with Alex.
Yeah, it was like tough, like, not to feel like I'm betraying, but like, also not really ready to move on. But, at the end of the day, is probably one of the best decisions I ever made. And, Lee helped me make that decision. Just go try it out. If you don't like it, then don't go back. So I was really just heavy in my own head and in my own thoughts that day, just, going through the workout and honestly just thinking about like, how similar it is, but also like how different it was. And then it was actually like 6 or 8 months before I came back again.
Was it really?
Yeah. So I came with Vic and Anthony in like October.
We
when I was just
texted.
training at
Maybe
home.
maybe it doesn't seem like that because we texted so much in that time. Well, I remember before you even came, you probably texted me for 24 hours straight, dude.
Yeah.
Asking me all sorts of questions like, what do you do for this? What kind of programming?
Yeah.
You were basically trying to find out, like, is this a stupid powerlifting gym or is this
Yeah.
like a sports performance
Yeah, well,
facility?
like you said, that mentioned that place in Spring Grove. That was one place I had tried out previously, like in between Elite 7 and going to train with you. Otherwise, I was just working on it at Forge by myself. And, I knew I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach one day, but I knew I didn't have all the tools in my toolbox to train myself yet. I still had a lot of room to grow, a lot of things to learn about sports performance, and then I had to fill in a lot of holes in my own game athletically to, get a college scholarship, go play college football, and hopefully come out of school debt free, which we did do that. So that was a big goal of mine for my life. And, a lot of people can't say that. I know a lot of kids that are still paying off student loans, and I'm just putting money in the bank.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm so happy. Like when I think about that, I'm just so happy for you because I do know, like I got friends. Like not long ago, I had a friend reach out and he's just like, dude, can you look at this with me? And he showed me the debt he was in and I showed him the interest he was paying. And I'm like, dude, you're never going to pay this off because it's literally all interest. You have to start hitting the principal. So when I think about it, I'm just like so happy that like that's a huge thing, especially with inflation and the economy.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It's just crazy. But I want to go back real quick. When did you know? Because I know the moment that I wanted to be a strength coach or a trainer. When did you know you wanted that?
So I actually initially went to school to be, I was going to study law enforcement at my first school. And it was like kind of like my first time being away from home. And I had a few different family members that are U.S. Marshals and like detectives within the law enforcement field. And I thought that would be something I'd want to go down, just kind of thinking like, oh, I like chasing quarterbacks. I like chasing bad guys, type of thing. And, I met a lot of teammates and friends that I now consider, some of them are still like brothers to me and from different walks of life and like learning like, not everyone that is incarcerated is a bad person. A lot of them haven't done anything really wrong. It's just, a silly rule in a rule book and then they get locked up away from their families and their children and their loved ones for some of them the rest of their life. And then they change the laws 5 years later and those people are still in prison. So
Yeah. Well, weed's a big one.
yeah, especially, and, we were on a road trip one time and there was like, my mom and dad call it like a chain gang, when they transport the inmates, they all walk together with their feet and their hands shackled together, just going to the bathroom. And, my mom was like, oh, just like, be careful, like, look out. And I was like, and this was after I had been away at school. I was like, like most people that are incarcerated, like haven't done anything like violent or seriously wrong.
Yeah,
They're just
most people, but let's not ignore
for
1
sure.
to 5%.
You gotta be aware,
where-
but you gotta be aware of your surroundings. And, if a guy has, like a muzzle, like Hannibal Lecter, maybe you just keep a few extra feet of distance between yourself and them. But, no, so I realized, not everyone that is incarcerated is a terrible person. And, that's something that like opened my eyes. Like I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then coincidentally, there was a ton of gang violence at the school I was at in Minnesota. It was in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. So, right across the street was like the bad area. And then the school was in the good area. But, there's gang fights and shootouts and people getting jumped right outside my dorm.
Well, that was a big reason you wanted to get out of there.
That was a big reason why I wanted to get out of there. I was also I graduated high school early. I was playing my first spring ball, my first spring game. I was 17 years old, playing defensive end against 320-pound offensive linemen, and I had 2 sacks in that game. And one of my biggest goals was to play Division I football, and that was another moment that like keyed for me, like maybe I can do something bigger. And then, once all the gang violence started getting rolling, there was 2 gangs got in a fight outside of at a party right outside of my dorm in Minneapolis. And, I was that moment, like, dude, I'm out of here. Like, I'd rather leave and regret it than like stay and get shot. So I was out. My coaches were pretty upset the next morning, but I didn't sleep all night. Went straight into their office at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and told them like, I want to go home. And, it was like a big thing because I had gotten like some awards for like performance of the week, and like the strength and conditioning staff was like really like vocal about like the 17-year-old kid works harder than a lot of the 20-year-olds in there. And, you know, maybe that's just a product of being within,
What's up? What are you doing?
all good. Okay. A product of being, you know, in a situation where, you know, some kids might not take it as serious. But I remember when I got like lifter of the week, the head coach is pretty furious because I had like the flu and I still got it over like a bunch of these like grown men, who should have been like, you know, they know the ropes, they know what's expected of them. But yeah, so after I left there, I did a semester at MCC, just doing I just took like regular like business class. I was like, I don't really even know. And then during that time, it was about like 8-9 months after Alex had passed away. It was still weighing really heavily on me. And you know, this one kid from this high school that Alex was coaching at, Rockford East, I don't know if it was a kid or someone they knew, but they made like a song with a bunch of like Alex's voices like in the background. So I was listening to that song a lot. And, you know, I was driving home from the gym one day. I was like, I don't want to sit in an office for the rest of my life. And that's what that business degree possibly could have led me down. And, you know, it's like what I enjoy learning about and like chasing is like athletic performance. And that staff at Concordia St. Paul like did a great job like mentoring me. And I know I always ask, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And we had all the technology, man. Sports bras with the GPS in them, tracking like your acceleration and your max velocities for the day, your total yardages, your body temperature. And then we lift weights for like speed and power. It wasn't just like run till you puke and then lift until you pass out. You know, there was
There's a lot of old heads that still do that.
Right. You know, and it is unfortunate, but I'm glad that I had that staff in my first year of college to really like show me that, you know, there is like a why and there is like a scientific method and there's lots of data behind what we're doing. And it's not just, you know, lift and then you get back pain or you run and then you throw up and then you pass out because, you know, even the conditioning was brought down. We would do like a pre-test, just like you do for lifting. We do like a conditioning beep test, kind of like a pacer, which most like middle school and high school kids are familiar with now. But based on the score you got, it would determine your yardage for the tempo runs that we would do for our conditioning. So if you got like the lowest score, within a certain range, it'd be like 40 yards. And then like the highest score, you'd be up to like 70 yards.
This was at Concordia.
At Concordia. And it would be, you know, it'd be like a 5 or 6 second like
So they
timer.
probably had a pretty young staff.
So they had one guy who's probably like mid to late 30s was the head of performance. And then this other guy, Jordan Newsma, was actually like I think he was either a graduate assistant or he had just finished his master's at Concordia and he was the assistant of athletic performance there. And Jordan's actually with the San Francisco 49ers now. He's developed a system called the 8 Vector System, which is a book that he published that I, within the strength and conditioning community that I am a part of on like social media and stuff, I see it come up all the time. It's just a little like a change of direction system, you know, that's eight vectors and like every angle is a different change of direction. And it applies to most team sports where you have to change direction. And, you know, through that system that was kind of being experimented on with us, I was playing ping pong in the rec one day and all of a sudden I hit like a full like Cossack squat and jumped out of it and scored the point. And it was like, wow, like
this is working.
This is working. You know, that training is like transferring and, you know, like we haven't really touched any really heavy weights in like 3 months. But then we went to do testing. I was stronger than I had ever been in my entire life. Just working on
just
speed
look at the
and
stuff
power.
that we're doing with TNT.
Yeah, and that's a huge influence on me, man. It's just, you know, move
this
weights
vector
fast.
system. Yeah.
Move weights fast.
Yeah. Well, you know, I can argue both ways when we train kids because kids they're really hard to teach intent to, especially the female athlete.
For sure.
The female athlete is really hard. Like you need to push weight as fast as you humanly possibly can. And then that's when that VBT training is going to give you the most of its benefit.
Yep.
And I think our system is far superior, but I think every now and then there's an athlete where it's like, okay, maybe we should just put some weight on this kid's back so he can start to develop a little more raw strength.
Yep.
And, you know, then we start to work that VBT, but teaching that intent, it's very difficult sometimes. Very difficult. You need a certain mindset, and to have that mindset, it's like every athlete kind of hits that clicking moment. And the females are really hard.
Right.
They're really hard to make.
Yeah.
Hey, my favorite is like Alex or Mia, where they'll be squatting, and as they're squatting, like, this is super heavy. They're doing reps. This is super heavy. I'm like, it's
Having a
not
full
that heavy if
conversation,
you can
man.
have a normal conversation. Like, you should be shitting your pants. And Alex, like, this is heavy. Just doing normal reps.
I was struggling.
That was not heavy. That was heavy. It's like, no, Alex.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but no, like Liv, I ecstatic. We just did a testing
Yeah.
period this last week for athletes. We do it every 3 months, and her intent on her squats the past like few weeks leading up to that were unreal. I was shocked, actually, like so surprised, but like so excited and happy that like, you know, it's been so long of like trying to like, guys, jump through the roof, don't come off the ground.
Yep.
And then, you know, it doesn't happen. And then it starts to click, and it's just, you're going to see the progression happen so much quicker now. It's just awesome to see.
I don't want Alex and me are gonna watch this. He talk crap about us. Like, no, I love them. They're awesome. They just need a little bit extra when it comes to pushing through and having that intent in the weight room. And if they deny that, then you guys are just lying. But
yeah.
So real quick, why did you graduate early?
So
Like, were you influenced to do that, or
from high school?
High school.
Yeah. So actually, my cousin Sean, he's 4 years older than me. So he played football at Northern Illinois. He went to Prairie Ridge High School, and in 2011, I think I was in 6th grade and went to watch him. That year they won the state championship. I think it was 6A. So, you know, a pretty big division as far as like high school size, but you know,
he told you to do it?
He didn't tell me to do it, but you know, obviously I just want to, you know, be like my big
Well,
cousin.
he
You know,
did,
he's
yeah.
killing. He's like playing Division I football. He graduated early, went to spring ball early. Like
He was always a really big, as our relationship grew, I remember him being a really big talking point for you and I. Like,
Yep.
oh, dude, my cousin went D1. I need to go D1.
Yep.
Oh, my cousin made it on a roster. I need to make it on a roster.
Yep.
And that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So he's definitely like a very positive influence for me. Like, you know, like, oh, would Sean do this? No, I'm not gonna do it then. You know, just always trying to get better. And then you know, he's human too. You know what I mean? So like he had guidance, and you know, I don't know why he wanted to graduate earlier. Maybe like the coaching staff that was recruiting him told him, like, you know, take an extra summer class, graduate earlier, get in here for spring ball and do all that. So I always wanted to do that since my freshman year of high school. So I actually took 2 summer school classes going into my senior year in order to graduate early, because it was something I really wanted to do, because I saw how it benefited his career in college. And
Yeah, I had nobody. I wish I would have done that. I had nobody
Yeah.
pushing that idea at all.
Right.
You know, just looking back, I wish that would have been awesome. It just puts you ahead. It puts you ahead. It gets your mindset ready for the next level too.
yep.
But okay, so that's Concordia.
Yep.
Okay, so now what got you to DuPage?
So I had a couple friends, actually. David Facone Jr. was at DuPage, and I knew another.
He's got a story too, man.
Yeah, you gotta get him on. He'd be a good talker.
Yeah, he'd be a good talker.
He's pretty vocal about his stuff. So.
Yeah, I don't think he played, and this isn't a knock on him, but I don't think he played a down in high school.
No, and he'll be the first one to tell you that. And, you know, he might have some, like, not Southern, but poor feelings about the coaching staff there and then how he's treating. His brother says the same thing. And I hear it from a lot of other people, so I don't know if there's some weight of truth in that or not. But
Well, there's always, the saying goes that there's always 3 sides to a story. It's his, and then the truth. So
Right.
I'm sure it's a little bit of everything.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I've known David forever.
Yeah.
So
but
did he
yeah,
ever
so-
tell you? Did he ever tell you our little run in at Forge?
I know. I remember you told me about when you guys were, or
When we
when you
started at
came
Forge?
into the school or something like that, and then he was there.
Yeah,
and you guys
I
talked
had
about it.
to. I had to because David's gonna laugh. So I'm training all these athletes at Forge, right? And I think he said it too. I think what he didn't like about me is that I was training kids he didn't like. So he associated
yeah.
me with like these kids that he just did not like.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that story is or whatever, but it doesn't matter. But I've always wanted to help all these young athletes, and as I'm done training some of the athletes, I walk out and I go into the main part of Forge, and David Facone and Brett Koval are doing a military press. It was like a behind the head military press on the Smith machine.
Okay.
So I started asking Brett, I'm like, Brett, why are you guys doing it on? Because Brett was an athlete at PR. So I'm like, let me help this guy. Why are you doing a behind the head press on a Smith machine? I think you'd benefit a lot more from just like a dumbbell press. Like, it's like free weights are king, you know,
Right.
for athletes. I don't think you should really be doing any behind the head presses with a Smith machine. And Brett took it really well. He's like, oh, okay, I'll just go do dumbbell military. And he actually asked me a couple extra questions. And David's like, I'm not leaving.
Oh man.
He's like, I'm not leaving the Smith machine. And Brett's like, dude, let's just go do dumbbell military. And David's like, no, I'm not listening to Steve.
Yeah,
But it
that's
was so
crazy.
fun. I was like, I didn't mean it. Like, I remember saying, like, I'm not trying to knock you guys. I'm just saying, like, this is what I would do. He's like, whatever. And he just keeps lifting us. And I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of our we'll call it a quarrel.
Yeah.
Our quarrel. And David, he started talking shit at high school. So to like all my clients, he's like, TNT stands for total nonsense training. Steve has no idea what he's doing. And he's just being a young knucklehead.
A little shithead, yeah.
Yeah. So I went into after school lifting to see like my guys, and David was there. And I was like, David, do you have something to say to me? Like, is there an issue? And he kind of shat his pants, which like any kid would have shat his pants if some kid or if some guy comes in and is like, dude, you talking shit. And I didn't do it in an aggressive way or anything like that. But he kind of shit his pants a little bit. And then that was like the extent of our interaction. And then Daniel's been training forever. David eventually came with, and turns out me and David are lovers together. And he's like,
David trains with
he's
us
hilarious.
twice a day now. So he loves it there.
Yeah, he loves it there, and I love seeing him, and I've always loved his family. So that's just a funny little side story.
Yeah, but yeah, no. So I had David and another high school teammate of mine were at DuPage already, and so I kind of had it in. So started emailing the coaches. You know, I was pretty good about like being professional even at like a young age, and like
You were always good at
communicating
that,
well,
yep.
and
Over communicate.
sending an email with like an introduction and then a proper structure, and then like all the best, Colton Folliard. So I went in there, had a visit. Like it was very brief, and I don't know if they thought I was gonna take other visits or whatever. They'd be like, yeah, just let us know. I was like, oh, I'm in. Like I'm coming in the spring, and they're like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, like like I'm coming from a 4-year school, and at the time there's no transfer portal, so there was actually some type of risk to leaving your school and transferring. Could have been over. Could have never played another down in college football, but I had faith in myself and my abilities to just find a way and make shit happen. So met with the coaches. This was like August or September of 2017, so still a long way away from going to DuPage in the spring of 2018. But I was already locked in. I was like, yeah, like let me know when I can sign, and I'll be here in January. So we get there, and in January, I spent a year there. We had some very poor strength and conditioning methods there, which was very confusing to me because I just came from a really good program. And I'm like, it's just like this in college everywhere.
I would get a text
it was terrible.
every day where Colton would share, like, well, they were the old heads, and they were like, let's push sleds as heavy as we possibly can for hundreds of yards.
Oh, we did 500-pound box squats for like sets of 20. You can ask David about this when he gets there. My first day, we did a 315 box squat test, and I did like 40-something reps.
Hold on. They did a test. So a measurement was how many times you can box squat 315.
Yes. I did like 40-something reps, and I had a migraine every time my heart rate would elevate for 2 weeks. And I'm like,
dude, like the ones in the back of your head?
Mine was like right in the front, like right behind my eyes.
Oh man,
and, yeah.
There's a lifter's headache, and this happened to me at Mizzou. It was, oh my god, the base of my skull at the top of my neck, and they called it a lifter's headache. And apparently, it was like really common with football players because we would be a little dehydrated, and it would happen when you were doing 225. And this is when I was like trying to attack 225, like trying to
for the bench.
Yeah,
okay,
for bench. And this headache was so bad. It was the worst thing ever. And if I did any more than 2 reps on bench, it would reactivate, like it would, re-aggravate.
Yeah.
So bad. Worst headache I've ever had in my life. But anyway, go back to what
so
you're saying.
anytime my heart rate would elevate even a little bit for the next 2 weeks, pounding headache. I'm like, I can't be a pussy, man. I can't be a bitch. It's my first week here.
That's a huge mindset when it comes to a football player in the weight room. You don't want to be a bitch.
Yeah.
And that's a huge driving factor with like, honestly, I think it's a lot of reasons injuries happen.
Yeah.
It's a lot of reasons for some of the negative things that happen in the weight room and in on the field.
Right.
For sure. You don't want to be that little bitch.
Yeah, definitely not. And I didn't want to be the guy. It's like, it's my first week, and then like, it's first
especially for the new guy.
First impressions. I'm like, dude, I can't do this, man. Like, I can't fold. So I just pushed through it. For like 2 weeks, like we'd be doing different competitions and stuff, like wall sits. We had to carry like a couple plates over our head, run around the indoor track and stuff. And if my group had
plates, like a couple 45s.
Yeah. Like go
like two 45-pound plates over your head.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. You go like
that sounds safe
around the track.
What if someone just passes out?
Yeah, and it
just drops 90 pounds on their head.
These are all facts, man. But there was like teams. They would draft teams for like the off-season program, or whatever. And I just I'm new, so I was probably the very last pick for someone's team, and if my team had like an odd number, like someone was sick or they quit or they left school or whatever, I would do the extra rep. I was like, I'm going to prove I'm a workhorse, man. I'm getting after it. And we'd get 2 things. And but yeah, that headache eventually went away. And I just kept like working and grinding. And I was one of the MVPs for the off-season program, right behind my eyes.
Really?
Right behind my eyes.
And this was and it was directly correlated and from the squat.
Oh, immediately after I finished the squat, I felt like I was going to pass out at a pounding
Were you doing like
headache.
a high bar squat of any sort? Or was it a low bar?
No, it was just
because
like a standard. The bar was not on my neck. It wasn't because the bar. A few other people said the same thing, but no one said anything because they didn't want to be the bitch.
Who's going to be the bitch?
Yeah.
Are you going to go tell them? No, I'm not going to tell them.
Yep. So then we go like through that summer I was working with my dad. He's like owns a carpentry business, and that shit sucked. I was like, I am not my dad. Kudos to you, man. So much respect. I don't know why you like it, but I hated that shit. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to stay in school for sure. And that's when I started training at TNT. And I did about 6 weeks there and saw a lot of progress in those first 6 weeks. And then I went back to school at DuPage, and after I ended up being a captain for the defense that year, even in my short time being there. And granted, it's a junior college, so at most people could have been there for 3 years if they redshirted, and then there's their redshirt sophomore season, so they'd been the third-year guys. But I'd been there for about 8 months, and I was, I don't think the players voted, but the coaches picked me to be a captain and go out for the coin toss. That was really cool. That was one of my goals in college, to be a captain and a leader on the defense. And you guys actually came to my first game. You and Kelsey came out, and another goal of mine is being a linebacker. I always kind of seen as like, oh, can't cover, just go stuff gaps. And I always tried to pride myself on being able to take away the ball, especially in the pass.
You had a good game. You didn't get that many plays, but but the plays that you did, you were making an impact.
Yeah, I'll explain that in a second of why.
And that's kind of
the
like
reason
DuPage
why.
was.
Yeah. But so
can I stop you for a second? Because I want to, and Alex, make a note of this. I want to stitch in Colton's before after. Make a little note on our sheet. But as a client, you were, I could probably name other people too, but you were easily one of the best clients I've ever had, because you followed me, you listened to me to a T.
Yeah,
I remember. Because you explained to me what you would eat, and your mindset at the time was like, I just need to eat more.
Yep.
And you were just eating everything in sight. And remember when I was like, well, why don't you try front loading?
Yep.
And it was probably the same amount of food.
Yep.
Right. And this goes for anyone listening. This is something that you can try nutritionally if maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. Everyone's a little bit different, so it's not guaranteed to work for you. But this guy, and we're going to stitch the before and after. His before and after went from like thick, meaty, chunky to I don't remember what it was, probably a couple months.
It was 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a couple of months.
No.
And this guy got diced.
Yep.
On all you did was front load.
But then I also started working with my dad. So even though that's not like super intense, it's 8 hours.
You're working all day.
Yeah, and that was like 3 days a week though, because I was taking a summer class at DuPage also on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would work with my dad and then come work out at TNT. And then Tuesday, Thursday, I would do my class, and then I'd hang out with Lee for a little bit, and then I'd drive back the hour or whatever to train at like the 5 o'clock time.
Yeah, but my favorite analogy when it comes to working out is you can go to the gym and you can half-ass it. You can get half your grocery cart, right? So when you go grocery shopping, you have a list. This is a list of what I need. And if I go to the grocery store and I get half that list, I just wasted a ton of time, right? Because I could have been more efficient and I could have got everything on my list.
Right.
You were a full grocery cart guy. Every time you went in the weight room, you would be like, "Can I do more?" And you were one of the guys I had to pedal down. If you remember that,
for sure,
like, dude, you don't need to squat heavy again today. You just squatted heavy yesterday.
Yeah,
Relax, Colton.
Yep. And that was for sure a little bit of like an influence I had from Corey. Like everything is there for a reason, for a plan. I remember they'd always be on the kids going to like the rec to work out extra after like lifting or practice.
There's
or,
a
like,
right way to do it.
Go to play basketball or whatever.
There's a right way to do it. You can do extra, but not every workout has to be super high intensity. And that was something that I remember I had to work on with you. Like, okay, well, we did heavy last time, so why don't we work something light for speed this time? So yeah, sorry I interrupted you, but I just wanted to add that in because so many of our athletes, their
nutrition is a big box they leave unchecked.
Huge box unchecked. And if you're not eating right, just get your little ass out of the weight room because it's a waste of time. It's like another one of my favorite analogies with these kids is you're putting 50 miles of gas in and you're trying to go 100 miles. It's never going to work. And Arnold Schwarzenegger would always preach this too. Like if you're not eating right, don't even step in the gym. Yeah. So, I
always prided myself as a linebacker, and this comes from Alex, is like, be the guy to take the ball away. Any moron can go lay out a big hit. A tackle is a tackle, right? It goes in the stat sheet the same whether it's a big hit or not. And, it looks cool on highlights and stuff, but ball players, they take the ball away. They give it back to the offense to go put points on the board, or they take it, they snatch it up, and they go score points themselves. That's what them dogs do, man.
I wish I knew Alex, man.
Yeah, so I actually spent most of my time as a linebacker training and playing like a safety.
That was Alex too, right? He was strong.
He played safety in high school, and then I think when he got to Northern, he played his first year as a safety, and then started to get a little strong, so they put him in the box to play some linebacker. But I think he played mostly outside linebacker, so he's still able to like cover and play the pass well. And then I think when he did the camp with the Bears and the Vikings, he was going back to safety. I remember he said that he was balling out his freshman sophomore year, but the team sucked. So he's like, all right.
At NIU,
yeah. And he's like, all right, I'm going to get in the box, make the team better. Instead of making a tackle at 20 yards down the field as a safety, I'm going to make it at 2 yards as a backer. So, you make sacrifices when you want your team to win. And, I think they won the conference championship his senior year before he had his opportunities with the NFL. So I always prided myself as being almost like a ball hawk linebacker, a coverage linebacker. And it shows in my tape. I always want to be the linebacker to get the first interception in practice, the first one in the game, get a bunch of pass breakups.
I love it.
Yeah. So in my first game, when you guys were there, I got an interception, and it turned out to be the 37th play on Huddle, and that was Alex's number, and I got that number tattooed on my body, and 37 means a lot to me.
That's pretty crazy.
At that moment, I was like, I made the right choice.
Yeah.
So I got an interception, a couple tackles for loss, and a pass breakup in that game. And the reason why you're saying I didn't play that much is because even though I was the starter and the captain and all that, the point of DuPage is to get guys out.
Yeah.
Get them filmed, rotate them all. So I'd play every other drive for pretty much the first half. And then we'd either be getting blown out or blowing people out. So then I'd play like one or two drives in the third quarter, and then that was it.
No, everybody was rotating. Yeah. Everyone. And so I remember thinking like, oh, man, these guys are rotating a shit ton.
Yep.
And then that's when I just kind of realized, I think you had told me already, but I realized that DuPage was there to get guys filmed basically no matter what.
Right.
So which is, it's good and bad. It's got pros and cons. So you got some, you might have some lower quality on the field sometimes, but you're giving the guy the opportunity that he went there for.
Exactly.
Which is nice because most coaches are going to lie to you about getting playing time.
Yep. And everyone wasn't getting to play all the time. It'd usually be like the top three. So usually the third string guy never sees the field, but the third string guy is getting as much time as the starter at DuPage, which was definitely a good thing. Like even though I only played a third of every game, I still led the team in tackles and had over 50 tackles. So you could say I was on track for over 150 tackles that season. And I had a bunch of pass breakups and interceptions and stuff like that. And, kind of similar situation with changing positions. As I started off at DuPage as like the boundary, like walk down, like pass rusher / linebacker that would drop back into coverage. And then we had 2 key injuries going into that during the summer, like a few weeks before the first game. And, we switched up our front completely. We were running a 3-man front, so I could be that 4th, like, walk down blitzer or pass rusher, drop back in coverage, depending on the formation. We had an inside linebacker and a defensive lineman that ended up playing. He's actually in the NFL right now. He was my high school teammate. But yeah, so I ended up moving to inside linebacker. I'd get out the box sometimes into the boundary, but it was foreign to me. It was still weird to like play the A gap instead of like setting the edge. But adapt or die. So I was out there getting interceptions, breaking up passes, and my recruiting was starting to pick up, especially towards the middle of the season. And a lot of coaches would tell me that they had to completely reevaluate their junior college rankings because of me, because I just came out of nowhere and making plays and pass coverage that none of the other linebackers were really making. So it made me feel good that my time was not being wasted, investing in all the pass coverage drills and like how to defend a pass with technique and not just trying to hit somebody, go take
One
the ball
thing that
away.
I think really separated you when I would watch your film that you would send me is your IQ. So I don't think you weren't the craziest athlete of all time. You were above average
For sure.
but you were not the craziest, quickest, fastest, strongest. You were nothing.
Nope.
You weren't over excelling in any of those categories.
I'd get bronze in every category though.
Yeah. Maybe silver in some of them. Like your squat actually got really strong.
Yeah.
But your upper body was never like ecstatic or anything like that, which, we can talk about the 225 bench and all that stuff and how useless, like we both know it is when it comes to a testing measure for the NFL combine.
Right.
But your IQ was so high. Like you were running to the ball before the ball was even there. Mm-hmm. Like you knew where the QB's eyes were. You knew where his shoulders were turning. You knew where the receivers were. You knew if you were on the boundary or you knew everything. Yeah. And your IQ was so high. It's far higher than mine ever was too. And
Doctor of the sport, man. Got to watch film.
Right. Exactly. And for you young bucks, watch film. And the number one thing when it comes to being recruited in football is film. It's not your 225.
Nope.
It's not your squat max.
Nope.
It's not your combine stuff. It's film. Can you make a play? And on defense, can you get the ball back to the offense?
Right.
And on offense, can you score touchdowns?
Yeah.
That's what's going to get you recruited for football.
Yeah.
So when at what point did you sign with Western?
So during my recruiting process, it was a lot of like Division II schools, like trying to get me to come on visits, and I'd be like, listen, I want to be real honest with you, and this is part of the recruiting process that no one really tells you about, and it's not fun. You have to be honest with these coaches when you're not interested. And some of them will try to make you feel bad, tell you you're making a mistake, tell you you're not going to play at these other schools.
Like that,
but they would ask me like I know you came from a Division II school. Like, are you trying to go to a Division I school? And I tell them, Coach, I don't want to waste your time at all, but that is a big goal of mine. And I definitely appreciate you guys reaching out, offering me a scholarship, believing in my abilities. But I really need to try to make this dream happen and play at a Division I school. And, if that doesn't happen, I'd love to have you on a list of people I can call.
That's a great way to respond. And I think the young bucks need to listen to you too. You never burn a bridge.
Never.
And I've heard quite a few stories where people have burned bridges like that and then they don't get the offer they want and they go back to the school. It's like, well, I don't think we're a great fit. So never burn a bridge and always have the utmost respect for all these guys that are reaching out.
Yep. But yeah, by the end of the season, I had a couple Division I offers going into like Thanksgiving, and that would be like the official visit period. And actually, you got to play the game with recruiting too. Like, be respectful, but I would tell these coaches like if I felt like they were maybe taking their time, and I wanted to go in the spring. I wanted to play spring ball, get my foot in the door, because if you show up, a month before the first game, it's gonna be really hard for you to touch that field. I was trying to get there in January, work out with the team, get to know my teammates, get to know the playbook, so that hopefully I could establish some type of position on the roster, on the depth chart, by the time that fall camp rolled around. So I would tell coaches, I'm trying to set my official visits right now. I just want to know if you guys were planning on bringing me on an official so I could save you guys a spot. And, 9 times out of 10, they'd schedule me an official visit right then and there. And so I took my official to Western. And then the fall, the signing period to go in the spring was like 2 weeks later. And at the time, Western felt like the best fit. It was in the Missouri Valley Conference, which has North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Illinois State, all like the big like FCS schools, the FCS Division I schools. And there I was like, okay, guys go to the NFL every single year from this school. You know, they're a playoff team. We play against high-level competition, guys that get drafted in the third, second round. Not too many first-round picks, except for Trey Lance recently was the number 3 overall out of North Dakota State. I think he got drafted to the 49ers, and he might be with the Cowboys now. But anyway, yeah, so I went there, felt like a good fit. We get through like summer workouts, and, you know, it was another situation where, you know, you get there and college coaching is a revolving door. Strength coach left 3 weeks after I got there, and that was a big thing for me because at that point I knew that's what I wanted to go to school for. It was gone, and the guy that they brought in was almost negligent and maybe one of the worst strength coaches I've ever had in my entire life.
Give us a story. Give us a story.
Just, you know, your classic like mat drills, and we'd be doing like heavy bench, heavy squat. You know, it was West Side Illinois University, you know, lots of like powerlifting, like conjugate method stuff. And, you know, we wouldn't do any speed work in the off season. And it showed when we got into the season.
Is he old guy?
40s, maybe.
Yeah.
But, you know, just
So
like.
kind of.
Yeah, kind of. But, you know, just I remember we had like graduate assistants would leave in the middle of the season because this guy
Just
would tell them
wouldn't listen.
like, well, not even not listen, but like he would tell them like, you got to get your head out of the books and just stick to the stuff that works. So this guy's like
this guy.
anti-science, like
I think I remember you saying
Yeah,
that, actually.
and, you
like
know,
he told guys not to read books.
Oh man, dude. And you know,
just watch Louis Simmons on YouTube.
the coaching staff that year for Western would talk about like intentionally like injuring players like mid-game. Not mid-game, but like going into the game. Then after, like, oh yeah, I could tell you were going in there trying to blow that guy's knee out. Like that's what we need around here. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
That was the coaching staff?
It's like, dude, it's a handful of coaches. And like whether they realize or not, and I actually brought it up to the strength coach. I'm like, you guys are talking about injuring somebody who came from nothing. And they're about to go to the NFL next year, and now you're going to ruin their career over a game, and we're losing by 60 fucking points. So I was super disappointed in that.
Yeah, that's not the way that should be played.
Football is a tool to like elevate yourself and, you know, inspire others. And, you know,
so many, I mean, every athlete, especially at the D1 level, that's a stepping stone for them because they want to go to the league.
Yeah, exactly.
Every
you know,
D1 athlete wants to go to the league.
To take that from somebody is just dirty. And you know, for
purposefully.
a team, purposely, you know, like sports in general, people get injured. Football is a violent sport. It happens. But to intentionally injure somebody, that's not okay with me.
Now, that's a bold claim. So, like, the coaches were literally saying, yeah, take that guy's knee out.
Blow their ACL. Tear their ACL. Blow their knees out.
Oh, my God.
It was very disappointing for me to experience that. And, you know, it really opened my eyes. You know, life's not what you think it is. Yeah. You know, especially coming from an area like this, you know, everyone's not always out to protect you. So from then on out, for sure, I was protecting myself extra on every single play. You never know what someone's trying to do to you, and it might be outside the realm of the sport. So you got to protect yourself. But yeah, lots of guys actually injured their knees that year on our team. Coincidence, karma. It's probably a result of our training and lack of speed training and always lifting heavy, depleting ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they would sneak ice cream into the protein shakes to get guys to gain weight. And then, you know, the guys that were lactose intolerant on the team would be shitting their brains out right before practice or after practice, and they had no idea why. It's because they're freaking putting ice cream into the shakes.
Is any of this coaching staff still there? They can't be.
No. We won 2 games my entire time at Western.
Wow.
So it was a lot of work and not a lot of play.
And just to put it in perspective for everyone, how much time was that?
2.5 years. With COVID, you know, we had like a weird, like we didn't play in the fall and then we played in the spring.
Let's talk about COVID.
You know, then I was like, oh man, you know, it's time for me to hang the cleats up.
Yeah,
it just wasn't happening.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience with COVID and one of my favorite things to talk about with you? I don't know why I think it's so funny. I don't even think you think it's that funny, but there was a Snapchat filter, and it was get vaccinated, and it had like a thumbs up on it. You sent me a Snapchat. This is one of the funniest things you've ever. I don't know why I think it's so funny, but you knew my beliefs on it.
Yeah.
You sent me you with the filter, and it was you smiling really big, and it said get vaccinated with a thumbs up, and you were like, how about no?
Yeah. So all right,
God,
so that
it's so
spring
funny.
semester, my first year at Western, I played a little bit of special teams, but not much. Besides that, still like a young guy on the team. It would have been like my redshirt sophomore season. So there's some seniors that were playing ahead of me, and so I didn't play that much. That was a kick in the face. I went from captain. I was ranked number 17th best linebacker in the nation that year by Rivals.com, which is like a recruiting service. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get in there. Like I'm gonna do my thing. Like they're gonna rotate, keep guys fresh. Nobody rotated, and those guys who were playing on the field were dog tired and almost bruised up and beaten to a pulp by the end of every game because they would never come off the field.
Yeah.
But so my spring semester is my last, and because of my academic pursuit, I was actually on my last semester of undergrad as a sophomore. So I was going to get my bachelor's in May. So I had one semester left, and the way I scheduled my classes, it'd be like online because a lot of classes I felt like went too slow for me. I'd do the assignment for the week, then spend the next week waiting around. So I did a lot of my classes online.
It's college basically.
And so I would attack all my classes. I had to take one class in person because they didn't offer it online at the time. But I did 4 out of 5 classes. I finished them all before spring break. Went home just so I could solely focus on football during spring ball and just try to really like nail down the playbook and all the new schemes because we had a new staff again every year. So for those of you who don't know college football, if your team is not doing good, you're gonna have new coaches. Whether
Every
it's
year.
the whole new staff or just new assistants, new position coaches, new offensive, defensive coordinators, it'll be different every year. So
Especially at the D1 level,
Yep.
because it's such a money.
It's a
It's a
business.
money thing. It's a financial decision for, all these big schools, and that's a huge money maker for all these big teams.
Yep. So it's a business. And so we had a new staff. I would go watch film in the coach's office, take notes. We were supposed to play Oklahoma State week 2, and they had a lot of really star-studded guys on that team. So I was watching a lot of film on Oklahoma State in January and February, and we were going to play them in September. So that's the type of film watching I'm talking about, guys, not just like your opponent's highlights 2 days before the game. So yeah, we get into the coming up in this like spring break. We do our mat drills. Everyone's throwing up and pulling their hamstrings and their groins and spraining their ankles because we didn't do any speed training before that. It was just 4 days of as hard as you can right before spring break, which is negligent, by the way. So we get into spring break. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do like 3 days at home, and then I'm gonna come back, be training, be all set up, ready for spring ball to start the next Monday. COVID had already been kind of like around, like going through,
around, yeah.
making it way through like Asia and Mexico, and then guys on the team would be like,
The
yeah,
COVID counter on
Corona
CNN was
ain't gonna
starting.
stop my fun. And so
Yeah.
they're all out on spring break doing their thing.
Is the vaccine a thing yet?
No.
No.
This was like early, like when it's just getting to the States. And then, I see schools start to shut down. And I'm still at school working out, right? And people are freaking out. Like, I left for school, had no toilet paper. I went to the store to try to get toilet paper.
Oh,
None.
this is the toilet paper.
So I was like, okay, now what? So I go into the locker room at school, and like I had to like bust open the toilet paper container to take some rolls to my apartment because otherwise it was
You
gonna be
stealer, man. You stole
I
it.
was gonna be hitting the bidet in the sink. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So I got some toilet paper, and then a couple of days later, my parents they shut down the school, and I was like, they're gonna open it. We'll have spring ball. It'll be all good. And then my parents called me, and they're like, like we want you to like come home. And I was like, okay, let me wait like another day or two to make sure like I don't get sick. Because at the time I had no one really knew. It was just kind of like,
Why do your parents want you to come? They were like scared.
not scared, but just like everything's shutting down, and you didn't really know what was gonna happen. Like,
Right.
were they gonna lock everyone in their house? And like at the time, like
It was scary.
No one really
Like,
knew anything about it.
It was scary. At the beginning.
I was
Like,
definitely
there were
super
so
cautious.
many questions. Yeah, I was too.
You had a
I
lot
was
of
too.
questions. You just had to play it safe at the time. So I ended up going home, and we didn't end up having spring ball. So I would still try to watch film, play Madden on the player lock mode so I could still like have active practice. And yeah, so I ended up like doing all my workouts and training in my backyard at home using like I'd put weights in my backpack and throw like logs around, swing an axe, like jump up and down from a tree stump.
I know you sent
I
me
had
all
to
the
take all the
videos.
videos because they wanted us to send them videos to make sure we were working out.
Yeah, I
We'd
got
have
all the
meetings,
videos every time.
We'd have
yeah.
online meetings about like the playbook and stuff on Zoom at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
It's such a different time. You had like a group chat, like with your team, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, we never had anything like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy what. How old are you?
24.
Yeah, so about 10 years. I'm 33.
Yeah.
But it's just so crazy to see like how the team dynamic has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Like even with like these teams with like GRB and Pro Player,
Yep.
and they all have these Snapchats and group chats and group me and all this. It's just so different now.
Yeah.
I'd be really curious what it would have been like to go through with that. But
It wasn't fun.
just blowing up notifications
And
nonstop.
people talking about random stuff. There was like a coaches communication only group chat. We would use GroupMe. It's like an app for like group text, and there would be like a players only, and then like a coaches one. There would be like
The
official
players one's probably so
team
stupid.
meeting stuff. Oh my god, dude, ridiculous! Like
I love
slandering of like opponents and
Yeah.
like. We'd be on a flight. All right, so we were on a flight to go to Colorado State my first year there, and we had these two flight attendants who were females. Were they attractive? Not to me, not even a little bit.
but it doesn't matter. Those
But the
football
guys on the
players.
team, yeah, they were talking reckless on that
the group
flight
chat.
in the group chat. Be like, I'll be in the back, like in the bathroom.
Oh,
like, let me
man.
know what's going on.
Locker room talk.
Yeah,
I don't want to drop any names, but there are like crazy locker room talk,
yeah.
and there is no remorse for any. Like none of these guys have any filter when they talk about that.
Dude, believe me, one time there was like a banquet at Western for like end of the year athletic awards, and this one girl gets up on the stage.
Oh,
and
jeez.
like she was like a athlete.
Immediately, someone hits the group chat.
Well, but like listen, this girl was like an athlete, right? So like a super serious athlete, and she was like lean, so she like kind of had some muscular arms, and guys start sending the pictures of like the Jack Kangaroos.
Yeah.
They started sending pictures of the Jack Kangaroos or like the muscle monkeys. It was this guy on the team. It was his girlfriend, and so there was a whole thing about it for like the next week at practice of like fight starting, and it was crazy. But yeah, no. College athletes can be ruthless.
That was it. That was said in the group chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was said in the group chat. And don't get me wrong, guys can be like crazy and talk all that shit, but girls do it too. So it goes
sure.
both ways. It just doesn't end up on the front page of the newspaper all the time.
Does it.
But girls and guys are both equally as reckless, especially in that college age.
There was a time where we were at a banquet at Mizzou, and this girl had the craziest calves. Calves. And it was like the talk of our locker room for like a week.
Jeez.
They
were wearing like heels?
Yeah, they were in heels. So like it looked, I still remember it like it was yesterday. I think she was a gymnast. Yeah, I think she was a gymnast.
Okay.
But her calves, it looked like two baseballs, just like pop out, because you got the upper part of the calf and that little lower part.
That's crazy.
It looked like two baseballs, and it was like the talk of our locker room for like a week.
That's wild. That's wild. But yeah, so I do all my we had to send our workout videos to our coaches, and they would like send us drills and like send us videos of you doing the drills by noon. And then we'd have like the meetings at 8 a.m. So they were trying to keep somewhat of a schedule, keep guys from just sleeping all day. And but we had guys from like California. I think we had one guy in Hawaii. But anyway, California's like 4 hours behind us. So this guy's meetings are like at 6 o'clock in the morning for months. And he's in California. So, they had some of the harshest lockdown requirements. So, he was probably already going through it. But yeah, so then they say like, okay, guys, we're going to come back to campus in July to do our workouts. Everyone's going to have to wear your masks. They put those stupid like shields on our face masks. Everyone always just ended up ripping them out because I'm sure you've seen like if you like sneeze or anything, it goes all over the place. That screen wasn't doing anything. So everyone just kept pulling them out. And then that poor equipment staff had to go and put it back on every single day. But it would fog up and you couldn't see.
Yeah.
You know, it's like driving a car with a fogged up windshield. You're going to get hit and something bad could happen. It's like, I'm taking this thing out and I'm getting after it. But yeah, then they start talking about like, we're not going to have a season. They're going to close down like all these other seasons.
So what year is this?
2020.
2020.
So right in the heat of all like the quarantine and the lockdowns and stuff like that, and they put restrictions on certain levels of football. Like Division III, I don't even think they practiced. Division II, maybe only the scholarship guys were practicing. I'm really not sure.
Wait, what? So different levels had different rules.
The only, and this is how you know sports are a business. The only teams that had a season in the fall were the major like Power 5 football teams. Like the big conference schools, like Division I. So they even differentiated between like, okay, the FBS for Division I and the FCS. We did not play any games in the fall.
But it's totally about your health, though. It's totally about your health. It's not. It has nothing to do with money ever.
So we would practice like 5-6 days a week during that fall season, and then we'd watch other teams playing on ESPN. So it was kind of crazy and disappointing. Like, well, why the hell do they get to play?
Did anybody stand up and ask questions? Or was it just kind of like it is what it is?
Well, we would have team meetings, and like this was probably the most like chaotic situation where like the coaches would be like, you know, poor coaches, right? They have to do what they're told to, but then like the players are like, this is fucking bullshit, man.
Yeah. What point did the vaccine drop?
This would have been like the following year.
Yeah.
So before that though, we were gonna play our season in the spring, right? So we're starting our like fall camp practice in January.
Okay.
And our season was supposed to start in March, something like that. We were only going to play conference games because if we went outside of the conference to play games, we'd be spreading the virus. Gotta only play within the conference.
Oh yeah, we don't want the virus to leave our conference.
Gotta keep it in the conference, okay? Keep your circle small.
Looking back, God, everything about it. Like this is obviously a giant joke. Like the fact that. It's just such a joke. It's such a joke. And I was just like talking with Kelsey about it last night. I'm just like, I can't believe that there's no anger from it. There's no anger. Like, dude, you literally lost your football career.
Arguably debate. Who knows what would have happened?
Yeah,
who knows
what
would have happened?
Like it made okay, so what
I definitely missed out on a couple years of
what weight would you
football.
put on your decision to leave for COVID? You like a
60, 70, 80%.
Okay.
So
that's a big.
And you know, honestly, like, and we'll get into it more later, but it could end up being more like 90, 95.
That's what I'm saying.
As it continues.
You know, how many athletes did we affect? How many years of sports did we take away from these kids? How many fun times did we take? Normal times for something that turned out to be a complete joke.
Yeah.
Like, let's call it what it is. It is a complete joke.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to talk about the vaccine, but I'm going to say it right now anyway. That vaccine ain't working. It didn't work. It never worked.
It's disappointing.
We were told it did. Sure. We were told it would get vaccinated and we'll return to normal. And the goalposts just kept moving the whole time.
Yep.
And I cannot believe, like, it's crazy to me that people aren't more mad about it.
Yeah. I might get mad just talking about it now, but I'm fired up. You guys will see why in a second. But yeah, so going out to practices, and you know our coaches are a little meatheady, so like linebackers couldn't wear sleeves.
Why not?
Right? Because linebackers are too tough for that.
Oh, okay. Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And then other position groups, they can wear sleeves. They can have hand warmers. It's negative 20 degrees out in the middle of the cornfields, so you know that wind is blowing.
Yeah.
It's coming hard. No sleeves. No hand warmers.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd have to wear masks during practice still, and they gave us little gaiters, like little like neck sleeve things to pull up over our like nose and our mouth and stuff. And when you were playing though, it would be like down here, so you could have your mouth guard and your chin strap on. But if you took your helmet off or when you're on the sideline, you had to pull it up.
Okay.
So I'm walking out to practice at -20. I'm like, this is fucking bullshit. It's like, I should have played an indoor sport, man. What the fuck? So yeah, and then other teams within our conference, like Indiana State, they chose not to play the spring season. So already we were gonna play 6 games, drop to 5. And then we'd be later in the season also like teams would get contact traced from the previous week. We wouldn't have a game.
Contact tracing.
Because then we couldn't play them. I remember sent you videos of this. I got contact traced from a roommate who tested positive but wasn't sick. So they took him, moved him out of the apartment, put him in the dorms.
I forgot you could be asymptomatic.
And I had,
God.
my girlfriend and I have 2 dogs, and so I had the dogs with me at school. And I'm telling them like they were gonna try to move me out and put me in the dorms too, where you can't leave. Like they'll bring you food. You're just literally not moving this room. And I tell them like I have these 2 dogs. Like I'm not
leaving.
And I tested negative 3 times within like 2 days of them like contact tracing me, and it was like
They were still trying to move you?
it was the week before. They ended up letting me stay. I had 2 other roommates, and they both had to go into the dorms. I got to stay in the apartment.
Because the dog?
Well, I think maybe they were both tested positive, and I
okay.
was negative. That's why I got to stay. Otherwise, I would have had to have Lee come up and get the dogs.
I forgot about contact tracing.
But yeah, like a week before the game, I get contact traced, and I have to quarantine for 10 days. So I'm like, I'm gonna fucking miss the game. This is ridiculous. Like, I know I'm just gonna like keep losing on opportunities to like put my foot down, like set my position like within the team, and go contribute, try to win games. And dude, I wasn't gonna play the first game, and they ended up canceling the game because the other team got too many
Tested
contact
positive.
traced or something.
So
I ended up not missing that game, but I was sitting in my apartment for 10 days. Macomb, Illinois is like a small town. If you're to compare it to something that's around the McHenry County area, it's like Woodstock if Woodstock had nothing around it for an hour.
Yeah.
So, you can't go anywhere. Everyone's going to know who you are. How many 6'2", 220-pound guys are walking around the town, only if they're on the football team type of thing. So I'm in this apartment, and I'm like, I run out and get groceries before like they could like spread the word that I was contact traced, and I had to like stay in the apartment. And so this is kind of where like my jiu-jitsu journey like kind of like picks up and gets started, because I was watching lots of videos, and Lee came out to visit me because I was like, I'm not sick. I keep testing negative, but they won't let me leave. So she came out to visit me for the week that I was contact traced, which is great. But
I
had already
what
watched.
did she do for school? Did she just end at DuPage and that was that?
No, so she went from DuPage to the University of Kentucky.
That's right.
And she was she studied U.S. culture or U.S. or international culture and business practices, because her family has an international company, and she's fluent in Spanish and English, and they work with people all over the world. So it was a good, good thing for her to study. It looks good on credibility for the company and stuff like that. So, but yeah, she came to visit me, and by that time, where's the camera?
It's on you right now.
That one?
Yeah.
I had already watched hours and hours and hours of jiu-jitsu. So when she
came
walked
over and
through
you
the
guys
door,
did
I was
jujitsu.
like, hold on, come here.
Let me try
And then I
this
just
leg lock
started
on you.
trying to choke her out, and she was so confused and a little bit upset, but we're over that at this point. But yeah, so we pretty much did jujitsu, not really knowing anything besides what I had seen from videos.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to like rip leg locks. I don't know what the hell I'm doing yet.
Yeah.
So it's like, thank God no one got hurt.
Yeah.
She felt roughed up, but no one actually got hurt.
Well, when you don't know what you're doing and you're trying new moves, that's like the most dangerous.
It's like, does it hurt? And a lot of that stuff, sometimes if it hurts, it's too late, and you got to go to the hospital.
Yeah. That was the beginning of your jiu-jitsu.
So when I was
Just so you guys know, we got like 30 minutes.
30 minutes left?
Yeah.
Okay.
The end of
so where's our point to our time? Where's our time at? Oh, I see it. Yeah. Okay.
So I get to the when I was going to Concordia, I was watching a lot of this guy Tom Bahali, who was a pass rusher for the Kansas City Chiefs. He may or may not. I'm not sure if he's been on a Hall of Fame ballot yet, but he was definitely one of the greats. And so he actually trained jiu-jitsu with this guy Henry Gracie in the off season.
Gracie.
And so the Gracie family is like the pioneers of bringing jiu-jitsu to the United States. And, you know, there's lots of legends. Like a big part of like why the UFC like picked up and why there's such a big thing about jiu-jitsu in the UFC, or there used to be, is because of the Gracie family. So talking about how he's training with Henry Gracie, it looks sweet, looks fun. I'm like, oh, like this helps with the body awareness stuff. Like, it's like I want to do that, but that college football schedule, there's not really a whole lot of time to go and do that. So I was like, okay, you know, one day I definitely want to get into it. And then as like I got contact trace, I had nothing to do. I just, for some reason, I don't know if it popped up in my feed or if I looked it up on purpose at this point. But jiu-jitsu in general. And just started watching videos.
This is before, like, there was no jiu-jitsu name event. Like it had no,
not that I knew of,
like, fan base.
I mean, it was
at all,
and maybe it just seems
it's
that
grown
way
so much.
Yeah,
in these
and it
last
has,
3
and maybe
years.
it's gotten bigger just because like we're involved in that now. That like social media, because that's all I see on social media now. So it just seems like the biggest thing in the world. But then, you know, other people are like, "What's
social
jiu-jitsu?"
media? My Instagram algorithm is just like death now.
Yeah,
I just see like, maybe it's because I share all that get out of it. Alex is laughing. Maybe it's just because I'm sharing. I'm very huge advocate of getting away from the city, and I share a lot of like the shootings and things like that. And it's a little, we'll call it apocalyptic, but it's reality.
Yeah.
No, that's not happening here in the suburbs.
Right.
The one that I just shared recently was a gang member. This is insane. Maybe we could, if you want to make a note, Alex, we can plug it in right here. A gang member runs up on a rival gang member, shoots him, and he happens to be between a family. So there's a mother and a son, the gang member, and then the daughter. This guy runs up, shoots this guy. It's probably like 7. Do you know what video I'm talking about, Alex?
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly. He was like,
if you can find it, let's pull it up. But it's like 7 to 9 shots, and the daughter, the little girl, she has to be 5, 6 years old. She just stands there, and you can see her. It's like a pretty grainy footage, and she just stands there like this, screaming, "Ah!" Dude puts all these bullets in, walks away, and while he was being shot, the son and the mom ran. Did you see that? Did you see me share this? It's just crazy, and this was in Chicago. I'm pretty sure.
Nuts, dude.
Yeah, it was in Chicago.
Real quick, if we wanted to, could you just make a new recording and do like part 1, part 2, just so it doesn't get cut off?
Why?
No, he's got to go because of schedule.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. I know we got a juicy. Like, I love this. This is awesome. This is why I want to do a podcast. Like, you and I have talked a ton before, but we never got to talk like this before. It's like when you sit down, you make a formal sit down, formal conversation. There's something about a podcast that just opens up another avenue, and it makes you ask more questions, and it's a little more interesting. And like, dude, I love you already. Now I get to have an even deeper, more in-depth conversation with you, and I freaking get it all. Maybe.
No, I got some issues going on with the screencast.
Son of a dick, Alex.
Yeah, we'll fix it later.
You're supposed to be the master of the keys, dude. Yeah, it's no longer young Alex. It's just
my
Alex.
bad, guys.
Yeah, it's just Alex right now.
Man.
But yeah, and this is why I wanted to call it pilot too, because we're gonna have to play with it a little bit and figure all this out. But we'll stitch it in later. But crazy, absolutely crazy video, and like having children, seeing that video was, I like almost couldn't take it because I imagined my son watching someone die via gunshot, and then the end of the video is it's just like the daughter's just like frozen, and the mom and the son are screaming like, come on. So the dude's shot, bleeding, and she has to like essentially step over this dead body to go get with her mom and brother.
Yeah, it's gonna impact her for the rest of her life.
For the rest of her fucking life. How could it not? How do you even explain that as a mom? Yeah, that's just a guy, and sometimes there's gangs, and sometimes they shoot each other. It's like, Mom, why are we here?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Don't get out of the city, everyone. Don't go near the city. That's not happening here in the suburbs.
Right. Yeah.
It's not going to happen here. So, all right. So what time we got left, Al? So I want to make
20
sure.
minutes, 25 minutes.
Okay, cool. I want to make sure I get into jiu-jitsu with Colton. So,
Okay.
okay, so you started jiu-jitsu. You start to really fall in love with it. Let's sort of fast forward too,
Yeah.
because you decide to leave Western.
So, actually, like one of the things that we had talked about, like me working at TNT,
Oh, that's right.
and all that stuff, and there's just a bunch of things piling up, like COVID. They were gonna start making all the players get vaccinated, or else they weren't gonna play.
Yeah, you
and
started-
that's where it jumps up to like 95% of the reason. The other 5% was that like I had never really built up any traction in college. And like the reality of like playing professional football was kind of falling out the
just
door for
dwindling,
me.
yeah.
Just things, everything happens for a reason, and like I can tell you right now, I enjoy like training and competing in jiu-jitsu far more than playing football at this point. And so yeah, I was like, time to hang up the cleats. And I remember like this one time in practice, I was like sitting there, and I've seen all Americans like from any level of school, like if they don't fit the bill in scouts' eyes in one way or another, if they're an inch too short or 5 pounds too light, they're never going to get a shot in the NFL. And for me, I was like, I never put any traction into like in my own career. It's like this COVID's like all over the place. Like it's time to hang up the cleats and go pursue something different.
So we were talking. You had asked me. You were at a point too where you're like, "All right, this is what I know I want to do," and you're like, "I want to start my own business, and are you okay with that?" And blah blah blah. And I was like, "Well, you can start your own business, but it's going to be this. And I'm sort of listing like all these barriers of entry to you.
Yep.
And then I think like 2 days later, I'm like, you know what? Why don't you just come work with me?
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of us.
Yep.
And the best decision I've ever made
Oh yeah.
by far. We talk about it a lot, but I wanted to give you like max dollar. I wanted to make sure that you knew your value, and I was, maybe you're gonna lie to me right here, like you're not gonna lie, but you're happy with where you're at
For sure.
Yeah.
No, we're definitely going down a path where it's like more and more every day. Like I do not regret like hanging up the cleats and pursuing like my coaching performance
What you
career and jiu-jitsu, which I've grown to love. And so like as far as jiu-jitsu goes, my best day of football, I'd feel so beat up like I got in a car accident, and my
worst day of jiu-jitsu,
worst day of jiu-jitsu, I'm like, oh,
my neck
I'm sore
hurts.
for a day, and then it goes away.
Well, especially with how often you do it. So right now you're 5 days.
Yeah, so I'm actually I'm training 5 days a week right now. 2 of those days I'll go twice. And then I'm lifting as well on top of that. So that was another adjustment for me,
how often are
adding,
you lifting right now?
I'm doing 2 like high intensity lifts per week, and then 3 like really like
Pump
short
lifts.
like not even really a pump lift, like really focusing on like mobility, like strength through mobility, like through a big range of motion. And those light lifts, like if I were to just bang it out all at once, it might take like 25 minutes. Which to someone who's just like in the gym and doesn't really understand the physical demands of jiu-jitsu, I'm still going to practice and like live like sparring, like doing live rounds for 35 40 minutes. And anybody who tries jiu-jitsu for the first time,
Don't do that.
those first 5 minutes are gonna feel like an hour, because your arms will be so pumped and you will be so dead.
The best pump you will ever get is a good solid jiu-jitsu session.
Absolutely.
Sometimes when I leave, I'm just like, holy crap.
Yep.
And like with my attendance, my attendance is once every 3 weeks.
Right.
So I don't have any sort of stamina of any sort.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, holy shit.
And just like anything, your body adapts and get used to it, and that feeling, that intense workout feeling starts to go away, and you could start to tolerate more and more. You just get technically more efficient, so your energy expenditure isn't as reckless, and you can train for 2 hours straight. What used to feel 3 minutes used to feel like an hour, and now an hour feels like 3 minutes.
For the people who don't really know what jiu-jitsu is, I would fall into the category of a combat sport.
Yeah.
And jiu-jitsu it's like MMA without the striking.
Yep, that's exactly how I explain it to people.
So you choke people out, and you'll see a lot of jiu-jitsu if you watch UFC, if you watch things like that. You'll see a lot of that jiu-jitsu being played into, and honestly, it's a background of a lot of the people that are winning championships.
Right.
You see the black belt under their name.
Yep.
So for anyone who doesn't know what the heck we were talking about for the past 20 minutes, and now where are you at with your jiu-jitsu career? I mean, how many medals have you won now?
So I got quite a bit of medals. I think I've had about 60 matches, and I've lost 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
So 55-4.
And now you're a purple
almost
belt.
like a 90.
Can you
I'm not a purple belt.
So I'm sorry.
So
You're
I've
blue.
hit
You're
sitting
tapping
around like
purple
a
belts.
90% submission rate. You know, I've submitted guys who are in the UFC right now at tournaments, and guys who are former college wrestlers and Marines and all that. And you know, not to say that I played Division I football, so I'm not some like accountant coming off the street or anything like that. I train every day, and there's a little bit of a physical component that I bring to the table, but like you said, the IQ thing with football, I try to make that the same way that I train jiu-jitsu. Like it's a
Can you
battle of the
explain
mind.
the belt system for everyone real quick?
So the belt system, and I know we've done a podcast with one of my main coaches, Kyle Perkins, who's a first degree black
Yeah,
belt
it's
now.
gone though, so we gotta have Kyle. We gotta have you back on, man.
Okay, yeah. So there's 5 belts in jiu-jitsu, refined main belts: white belt, blue belt, purple, brown, and black. On average, it'll take people about 10 years to get to that black belt level. And then after that, every 3 years that you're actively training as a black belt, you'll get a degree. So Kyle's been a black belt for 3 years now, so he just got his first degree in February.
Huge
And
accomplishment.
Jeff is like 5th or 6th degree. He's been training like 36 out of his 44 years on this planet. So he's done a lot for this area with developing jiu-jitsu, and his UFC career was miraculous, and he's definitely a warrior. He was telling me one day he had like over like 100 MMA fights, and I was like, I don't think I've even played 100 football games in 10 years. So
Yeah.
that's crazy. But yeah, so I'm a blue belt right now. Sometimes I'll have the privilege of being able to go compete against guys who are ranked at like purple, brown, black belts, and put on a pretty good show. Like I said, I don't lose very often, but honestly, most of my losses have came at the very early stages of my career when I'd only been training for 1 or 2 months. I lost like 3 matches in my first like few months, and so it's been a while. And I keep trying to challenge myself and go to like bigger events against like higher ranked people, and find that limit of like, okay, am I ready for this yet? Do I still need to work? And I always have stuff to work on. I've been focusing on takedowns a lot for the past like 6 months, and
Your
it's
hand fighting too.
made a huge difference in my game overall. So
How would you describe your jiu-jitsu game? If you had to describe it in a couple sentences, how would you describe your jiu-jitsu game?
So I used to I didn't wrestle growing up. I did like 3 months of wrestling in 3rd grade.
Don't you wish you did?
Kinda, but also kind of not, because at this point, like I see a lot of the reactions and common mistakes that wrestlers make, and like
Okay.
I don't have that built into me already. So
Right.
for me, it's
So
like starting
you're
from
adapting
scratch.
your game.
It's strictly around jiu-jitsu. I don't have to adjust from wrestling to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I would try to wrestle with people, just kind of out muscle them, but I knew I wasn't good at it. So then like I started to develop like a very pull guard, like play guard type of style, get a lot of leg locks, because that's what opens up a lot in those situations, especially at the higher weight classes. I guess leg locks are just kind of like a mystery to a lot of people. It's getting away from that now, but
Yeah, there was a trend, right? Like leg locks were.
yeah, where it's like
everyone was going straight
it's like
to
the
a leg
new
lock.
the new trick on the block.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know how to defend it, but now that as time is going on, the knowledge and defense of it is elevating. So leg locks are becoming harder and harder to finish. So then it just it evolves back into like, get on top, mount, take the back, get the choke, get the arm lockers, whatever. So yeah, I'm a blue belt right now. Like I said, I've been competing
With the purple belts.
with the purple belts sometimes, and even getting some matches against brown and black
The belt
belts.
system's not super important.
Yeah,
to
so
you,
it's
though.
not so.
There's gi and no gi.
And
so
yeah, even in like that ranking system, it's kind of like, well, how good are you really? Because like John Jones, who is just a phenomenal like athlete in the UFC, and even at heavyweight, you could see his grappling skills are very high. He's only a purple belt, right? And so, for reference, that blue belt could take someone. It took me 1.5 years to get my blue belt, but I was training every day, competing a lot. Other people, they could be 5-6 years as a white belt.
Well, typically it's a little
Purple belt could be
it's a
6-7
little arbitrary,
years.
right?
Yeah.
It's a little arbitrary. So every black belt and every system gym is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I know Curran's a little bit more strict about how they
For
hand
sure.
out.
Yep.
Like
if you're
a
a black belt with Jeff Curran, there's no doubt you are a black belt.
Yes, because I know, and this is not to knock any specific gym or anything like that, but I went to a couple different gyms, and the blue belts at the couple different gyms were very different.
There's different criteria.
The blue belts at Current, those are in my like
Demons.
what they felt like purple belts to me.
Demons.
And the blue belts at the other gym I was going at.
Yep.
It was they were given out by time. Like how much time have you spent on the mat? Which whatever. That's how you
like at Curran's play, the HQ in Crystal Lake, there's some guys who are white belts that are better than some of the purple and brown belts that I compete against.
Yeah.
So, you know, I definitely try not to get too caught up in the ranking system. And yeah, obviously, like one day, like I would like to be a black belt. It looks cool, you know, and it's just like a thing where it's like, yeah, I'm a black belt in this. Like, you know, the jiu-jitsu black belt holds a lot of weight and respect, even with people who like might only watch MMA.
Right.
And they don't really understand how the ranking system works. But I try not to focus on that at all. Just go in. I have certain things that I work on for a period of time to develop my skills. And, you know, I'm just trying to get better. And then, you know, the belt around my waist or whatever rank that is put behind my name, it is what it is. It'll come in time and, you know, at the right time.
Yeah. We talk about this a lot. And it was really important, not only to you, but to me, that working with me as my partner, I don't like saying employee, like I said, as my partner, it was really important to me that you were able to attack this goal 100,000,000%. Actually, you're on a little email list of mine. And I just talked about having regret.
I love those emails.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
I have a little email list with a small group of people. Alex, I think I threw you on it too. But one of my biggest things, I look back at what I did as an athlete, and I want so badly that when you get to the end, when you get to like my age or even older than my age and you look back, I want you to say I had every opportunity and I took advantage of every single thing. So one big thing for us was making sure that you can attack this 100%. So I want you to talk about like, what's your ultimate goal?
Yeah. So my ultimate goal is to qualify for the ADCC World Championship. You know, and just, you know, for lack of a better word, or just because I feel like saying it, you know, I failed as a football player to be a professional athlete. You know, it is definitely a goal of mine. And part of it probably stems a lot from, you know, being bullied as a kid. I was really fat, overweight kid. And I was 5'10" and like 185 pounds when I was 11 years old. So, you know, all like the bullies and like getting picked on and stuff, like definitely like is in my head today. And it probably contributes to a lot of like some like body confidence or body dysmorphia issues.
I have
still
permanent body
with.
dysmorphia.
And,
I mean, you and I talk about it all the time. I'll never look. I don't care what I look like. I'll never look in that mirror and be like, I love this. Like it's always a little bit of, and it's healthy, but also unhealthy.
Right. Yeah.
You take it with a grain of salt and understand. And I've recognized that I'm just, I'm always going to kind of have that.
Yep.
I think there's a name for it. There's a name for like having that permanent vision of yourself in a mirror. Some sort of phobia or so, I don't know.
Maybe. Oh, I always knew of his like body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
It's like when you look in the mirror, you see like I'm too fat or I'm too skinny type of thing. But yeah, I definitely struggle with that a lot.
How much time you got, Alex?
10 minutes.
All right.
Okay.
Sweet. So yeah, we get into, what were we talking about?
Your goals.
Yeah. So being like a failed football player, one of my goals for my life is to, you know, just be the best I can possibly be. And, you know, being a professional athlete is definitely one of the boxes that I want to check off my list, you know, before I retire from competition. But I don't even
you got such a long career with jiu-jitsu too.
Yeah,
I love
you
that.
can be 35 to 40 years old and like still be kind of hitting your prime.
Yep. And that's what really pushes me too. I just need to make more time.
Yeah.
And it's on me. It's 100% on me. And I can sit here and say, I got 2 kids and I got a business and I got a podcast, but seriously, it's on me. And
you got to listen to some of the guys that are on Joey and Kyle's podcast, Keep It Rolling. They've got some miraculous stories, and you know, it made me feel like I wasn't doing enough already. Like I have no excuses, and some of these guys got like 6 kids and businesses and all
I'm a squirrel brain, man. I'm totally a squirrel brain. So like I get an idea and I run with that idea, and what that has done is this. So it's good and bad, right? So now we have this awesome podcast set up, and now I've made it a thing where I'm prioritizing, and this has been a priority lately. So
for sure,
now that we're up and running,
hell yeah,
I know that I'm going to be coming to the gym.
Hell yeah, dude,
so,
you're going to be a freaking monster, man.
Yeah,
those highest weight classes, like, dude, it doesn't take a lot, like mentally, and like no offense to anybody who's in like those higher weight classes, but it's pretty commonly
The
known
athletic
that
ability goes down dramatically.
the athletic ability goes down, but also the technical ability,
Mm-hmm.
like different things like inverting and the different little like nuanced techniques that you see from like the lighter weights, like Joey and Kyle's weights. And, you know, as you get heavier and heavier, it just becomes a little more just like wrestling. Like the heavy weights just look less technical than like the 120, 130 pound guys.
Right.
But yeah, definitely check the box of being a professional athlete before I retire for competition. But I don't really ever see myself fully retiring. And I've always kind of
jiu-jitsu,
thought
you don't
like,
really like need to.
but even if I'm just training jiu-jitsu, like I think maybe like I would compete in like Ironman stuff as like
For sure.
a 40-plus-year-old.
Yeah, I have a thought process in my head. It's jiu-jitsu. Then when jiu-jitsu gets just, super hard, then it's golf.
Yeah.
Then when golf gets super hard,
Yep.
I want to start doing like Ironman stuff.
Yep. Well, fun fact about like why I pick like Ironman or an endurance-based like competition is that from 20 to 60 years old, there's not a huge decrease in performance in endurance.
Oh, yeah,
Especially with like
I
running
was like, of course there
specifically.
is.
For endurance
Yeah.
specifically, but like a
Yeah.
60-year-old can keep up with a 20-year-old.
Right.
And so like that's something that I could see
Well,
myself
it's almost
getting
like a little bit of an advantage because the longer you do it, the more of a capacity and
into. Right.
and
Efficiency of technique and all that stuff.
Yeah, that builds very quickly. So I know we're running short on time, but I want to ask you one more question. So what sort of being a 24? Yeah.
Yep.
So being a 24-year-old, you've been through, let's say, one athletic career and you're entering another one or in the middle of another one. What kind of advice would you give the aspiring athlete that's watching you right now? Because you are definitely someone who's excelled, even though it might not look like it.
Right.
You kind of got lowballed on your football career.
Yeah.
But you've excelled, especially in the aspect of putting in the work.
Right.
And maybe that is your answer, but what kind of advice would you give to a young athlete?
Young athletes, old athletes, like people who are just looking to work out or get better or learn something new, you got to be okay at sucking, right? Like I can't tell you.
And if you want to talk about jiu-jitsu,
Yep, you will suck day one.
Alex, you want to add to
Tell
this?
you what.
I still kind of suck. So it's been like a year.
Oh, man. No, Alex puts in a lot of time, and he's had his own issues, which might come up on the podcast one day. But he's definitely developing a good game, and
Well, we'll have to get someone behind the desk, and we'll have to interview Alex.
He's been okay with sucking. The more you're okay with sucking, the better you're gonna get.
Yeah, if you got a huge ego, oh man, you got to put that aside. I am 250 pounds. I don't know. What would you say my body fat is? 12 to 14% body fat?
Something like
I've
that.
had a 150-pound man roll around on me like with no issue and tap me out.
Yep.
No issue at all. So it's one of those things where if technique and skill is matched, your weight and your size and your strength come in handy. But if it is not matched, you are fucked.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
are fucked, and you are humbled so fucking quick in jiu-jitsu, and it's awesome
For sure.
I'm I look at it as like that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. But a lot of people look at it like, oh, that
Hell
sucks,
yeah.
and it does suck at first.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, yeah, dude, Joey Deals fucked us both up. He weighs like 145 pounds with bricks in his pockets.
Yep.
And, he's a Bellator fighter, and he's currently ranked, I think, in
he's
the
a beast.
top 3 in the world of his weight class in the ADCC rankings. And, he was fucking me up in front of my girlfriend on the first day. And he's awesome. He's like a great example for me.
Turn away.
Great example for me and anyone else that, it's not about how big and strong you are. And don't get me wrong, Joey is freaking strong. But he's a perfect example of like technique is
100%.
kill everything. But yeah, young athletes, be okay with sucking, put in the work on a daily basis. It doesn't always have to be physical. I can't tell you how many people are okay with going into the gym, swinging it out, like trying to swing weights, like work themselves really hard, but then they don't work on the mental aspect. Be a doctor in anything that you want to be, that you want to excel at. Be a PhD in your sport, because that's number one. I can't tell you how many people I've seen bench and squat, for a 1,500 pound total, But if they're playing baseball and they can't even touch the baseball,
Oh God, powerlifting and baseball.
And
that's a whole other conversation.
That's the sport specific training right there. Everyone wants to like put bands on every part of their body and throw medicine balls against the wall, jump on a box, and juggle
we'll
tennis
have to
balls.
We'll have to have you back on too, and we can talk about sort of our training philosophy that we've developed.
Right.
And hopefully we can impact some of these kids who are stuck in the
For
Instagram bodybuilding world.
Because any idiot, and I've been putting it on Instagram recently, like any idiot with a tripod camera and a bicep vein is going to influence any 14-year-old kid into doing whatever they say.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a TV show now.
We're gonna get stuck in longer conversation, but hey, I love you to death, Colt, man.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you were the first episode
For
of the
sure.
UP, and
We'll do many more for sure.
Oh, 100%. But thanks for coming on, bro.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, that was smooth.